Easy, how are we?
Shawnee, I I don't know.
You don't know. You don't know. I tell you what, I was very confused now seeing all the different the footage of people doing Dublin City half marathon, smiles, faces, you and a lot of pictures, and then one or two pictures out. Luke Kelly's hanging off your neck. I'm like, whoa, 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 go back to that. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What's
Like the
going on
Leonardo
there?
DiCaprio.
Back
Get
here.
back here. Yeah.
You were in Dublin today. Well, as on Sunday morning, watching your better half, and your better half in every which way now because she's doing races and finishing races. Someone feed me that line.
It just screams Jamie Naughton or something. I don't know.
Jamie also finished the scene there. You see a lot of people there. You've seen the start line throughout the course. You felt the atmosphere there. How was Dublin City half for you?
Yeah, it was great for me. I'll tell you what, it didn't start well because so many people were calling me Sean. I was like, we fucking need to do a very big PR fucking campaign. But to be fair, came up to me afterwards and said, sorry, but it was one of those, Sean, and then you look at them, hey, and I had the camera. I think you've seen it on some of the videos, essentially.
Why did they apologise? No, I don't get why they apologised.
Yeah, I'm like a lamppost compared to you. But yeah, so there was a few that did them, but it was very funny. 5 or 6 times that happened, but it was great. You know, it's weird when you go to races. Like there's 12,500 people thereabouts ballpark finished the race. I don't know how many started, but it was phenomenal that in that crowd of 12,000, I'm able to go, there's and like of years of interviewing people and meeting people at races and saying hello to various different people. So it was for me a really friendly morning, you know, and the rain held off. It was overcast. There wasn't a breeze. To me, it was the perfect race conditions. It was absolutely fantastic. The setup on the start line was the exact same. O'Connell Street seemed to be, you know, pretty good. And
from what you saw,
yeah, like the girls came in with me and I got parking nearby. They got to the toilet, you know, and all within the 30 minutes of the start. So from that perspective, having not been in the corrals, it seemed to go pretty well. But yeah, it was a fantastic. The wheelchair race went off first, and the guide that went off, Jer was there as well, getting guided around, and that we'll come back to that later about the medal. And then I watched the 3 waves head off, and it was absolutely fantastic. It was great watching people. You can tell who was new to a race, their first one. You can spot the nervous faces. You can spot the ones that are trying to burst past everyone in the first 100 meters. And, you know, you're kind of like, you know, it's great to watch like all the mistakes I've made happening in the course of like 5 minutes. And no, really nice day for it from what I can see. And once they all headed off, I strolled to the finish line. Do you know what? When you wait for the third wave to pass you, I think it's about 10 minutes for it all to pass you. I walked around. I didn't make the finish line for the winner. 63 something else. So by the time I'd watched and began to walk around, I could hear his name. Forgive me, I didn't check because we just came from
Sean Tobin, I think, won it.
I think that's the name. I could hear something and the crowd was roaring and come on, you know, you can do it. But yeah, he was calling out the seconds. I think it was 63 something.
Wow.
Thereabouts. Maybe I've got that because I was listening to it from 500 meters away. I was running myself, which was rare, to try and see the finish. But it sounded absolutely amazing. But I got up in time to see some of our past guests do amazing running. And, do you know, there's that area, and I say the elite stage, where they're coming in ones and twos and jostling and chasing, and it's just amazing because you know they're hurting, you know how hard they're working. It's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, it was great to see that. And then when the waves started coming through, there was so many people you could recognise and cheer, and a lot of people, you know, you can see some faces struggling and some having a good day. But I think that race has. There was, from what I've heard, there was no wind on the coast road this time, and people were kind of like, wish there was a bit of a wind. I was bloody sweating, and I was, you know, so I was like, you can't have it every way. So I'd rather no wind myself. But yeah, it was by all accounts a really, really nice and enjoyable race. So it's a big well done to everyone who took part, and I hope everyone got around safe. But it was few people. It's amazing, even in the last 500-600 meters, pulling up and they're like, I can't do anymore. I'm
Well,
like,
that's what
come
you said
on,
last week in the podcast when
yeah,
you were on it last year. You saw people near the end.
yeah,
It's a straight that's so close yet so far. When I
the
did it,
bridge,
it just seems a long way.
yeah,
But having said that, it's a nice one to build up atmosphere. Like it
yeah,
just seems the crowds get bigger and bigger as you get closer. So it's not a
yeah.
knock on that. It's just when you're in the middle of it, you go, "Oh my God, I've put in so much work." And like you're about to say that the little humpback bridges and all the rest, just those little sneaky things at the end. You're like, it's so close. Like I feel it, but you're not quite on. I love they had the blue carpet this year. You're not quite on the carpet yet.
Yeah, no, it was pretty good. Now I have to say, and there was a good atmosphere at the finish. There was good laugh. It's gas though because it gets like that Tour de France. People, you're standing. I was the first one. It was like a science experiment. I'm standing like on the edge of the road, and then
Hmm.
I'm looking, and then people stand in front of me, and then stand out further. And then the next person stands out, so that person moves out to look. When you look around, there's just this cone behind you because everyone has to stand out further to see past that first
Yeah.
person that stepped out further. It's like, oh, if I had a baseball. No, you can't say that, Sean. Um, but it was great. Now there was people there supporting their loved ones and people doing their first halves, and it was real nice. I actually watched most of the finish with Lawrence and Suzanne. Lawrence, who's a previous guest, was in our famous for his
Oh,
5K in the Phoenix Park.
how
So
is he?
me, he's doing really well. He's
First
actually back
episode of the
running
year.
now. And it was a really nice moment because we got to watch his boy do his first half marathon. So well done to
Ah,
Alex who crossed the finish line and a very proud dad. So it was a really really nice moment for me in terms of the crowd and seeing people in the crowd and Susanna was with us watching David run across, and it was amazing because everyone's like, "Who are you cheering for?" And then I just start shouting at someone randomly, like as in, "Do you know them?" Having a breeze who they were. But yeah, look, it was great. It was great to see so many people. It seemed to be a really, really nice race and one that, maybe I know it is probably that little bit more expensive. I think it's the same day as Limerick, I believe. So
Limerick is on
it's
today, and sorry, Limerick.
Belfast.
We're recording this on Sunday. People know that. Belfast is on. Limerick is on, and there's a lot of people that draw at 10K as well, from what I saw on
A hell of
Instagram
a
as
lot,
well.
yeah.
That's
So
four big races that were on throughout the country today, and from what I could see in social media, but they all seem to be going pretty well.
they all seem to fill up anyway. But yeah, it was just a really really nice day, and then watching people finish was deeply satisfying and deeply painful.
Really, did you get the
Yeah,
FOMO?
no,
You did the
it's more
FOMO.
fun to be in it. Yeah, like I'm sitting here talking about a race from a snippet of 400 meters to go and the first K. Like
Mm,
it's much better to be in them. It doesn't even matter if you're doing them slow, backwards, walking. It's
mm.
far better to be in them. It really, really is. It's I always say like the finish line is in itself. It is a spectacle, but I far prefer to be in it, and even be in it and come back and cheer people, and it's just
Yeah.
even more magic then. So yeah, it was hard. It was hard. It was a nice one, but we did say that Dublin half probably wasn't going to. We didn't go in for the tickets anyway. So,
No.
um, but yeah, it was nice. It was nice to be the supporter for once, carrying the bags. So I did my fair share,
You did your
which was
penance
really
for the
really
next
good.
one.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Absolutely.
And
But
that,
that's the
that
end of that now.
you saw a good few AGR t-shirts as well along the way.
Yeah, there was a good few out there. There's so many to name. All we've put up the Instagram stories and this. You kind of forget. You do forget we have a
So a
podcast.
lot
Like
of
I'm
people.
in there now. I have the hat on. I hadn't even got the T-shirt on when people were calling me you. I was wearing the jacket because it was a bit cool.
Must
And
have been a very puffy jacket, and your arms were sticking out a lot in the puffy jacket, and people
but
thought it was me.
just
That's the only way we could
yeah,
be mistaken for each other, I'm pretty sure.
people must think you're 6'5" or something. I don't know what's going on, but it was the hat. That's what makes us look
Right.
like twins. Um, But it's look, it was really, really good. What was a really, really magical time was actually in the finish line area, corral. There's like a Lewis stop. We were stood up. So it started, I met a few of the guys, and then Jer came out of the crowd. I tell you what, he says he's blind when he's running. I'd be calling bullshit on that one. He gave me such a smack on the shins with his cane twice, right in the same spot. And it was like, precision. I was like, no, I didn't let Ani hurt me, but I'm going to tell 4,000 listeners now this week that he hurt me. But I was like, yeah, you're so funny. I was nearly crying on the inside.
Was that just his way of saying hi, or you got a reason behind it? I'm pretty sure you got a reason for it.
That was the warning shots. And then he pulls from his pocket 10 Sovereigns Bright. Now, he pulls out Luke Kelly out of his pocket. And he I don't know how he did it. He got a spare, and he was like, now, put that on there, you failure. And he puts the medal on me. So now he sent me a message going, I have to wear that medal every time I run now until I earn the right to take it off. So yeah, it's I don't know how he managed it. He must have borrowed it off someone, but anyway, I have it now. But Katie took it straight off me then. She was like, you're not allowed to have that.
She's dead right. She's dead right.
So, but yeah, so the show has begun. So he's been giving me there's plenty of blood, sweat, and tears to come. So he's told me, well, it's already started on my shins, but so that's it. We're off with a soft run, and I think we'll do a run on Wednesday together and see how that goes as well. So yeah, it's all eyes on Dublin is what we're trying to do now. So and see how that goes. But I do want to give a couple of shout outs, Sean. I didn't get everyone's name, but I will give credit. It was a big guy came up to me. He did a 1:48 half. He was a man mountain. He was huge. He came up and he said a big hello to everyone, but what a fantastic run he did, and he delighted and great to come up and say hello. Jackie and Kelly pretended she listens. She got caught out pretty quick, but Jackie, I think just wanted the company to come up and say hello. But Jackie listens every Monday and was delighted to introduce, and she thanks you as well for helping out with last year's Dublin Marathon. I don't know. I asked her the same question. Like, why?
Cheers, Jackie.
So a big shout out, Jackie. There's a selfie of me, Jackie, and the non-listener Kelly somewhere floating around the ether. Nora called me Sean. She came up to say hello, big fan of the podcast. She also had a great run. I believe it could have been her nephew was doing his first half marathon. He was a bit shook, and I was like, "Did you enjoy that?" And he was like, "No." I was like, "Give it a week." Give it a week. You'd be looking back on, you know what, that was great. And then a few weeks later, you'd be buying another one. So a big well done to them. Later on in the day, then Dr. Sarah Kelly, previous guest, also called me Sean. But she came up to say sorry.
How'd she call you Sean for?
I know, but she had a good run out as well, and really enjoyed it. Said the course was amazing, and it's fantastic. The amount of clubs, I think Swords had nearly 50 people out there. I'm sorry if I get the numbers wrrong, but it just seemed like they were everywhere.
I saw Fran and Marky out there. Soupy.
Yeah. They were all out there. They all had great runs and doing really well. Some really top runners in good and early as well. But all of the inner city running clubs, shelters were there. Marcus was there. Ran into him as Katie had come past me, and I was like, he's like, "You're not running." I was like, No. He's like, "And you're finished supporting already?" I was like, "Here, will you go way up?" So yeah, no, it was good. It was a really, really good buzz around the place. Like I could go through naming every club I saw, you know, and it really was a national event because there was clubs from all over the country, but just doing a really, really enjoyable day out. So yeah, it was great, and all day I got in trouble though. I forgot to tell my mum. Forgot to tell my mum what was on. She was raging. The number one AGR supporter. I'm getting it in the ear all day.
Rightly so.
Yeah, I know.
You bring your mammy to Barcelona, but you won't bring her to Dublin.
Yeah, look, yeah, I know. But anyway, it is what it is. So I'm putting it out there. So yeah, sorry, ma'am, but getting it in both ears. But it's but yeah, it was a great day out. It was really great to see and chat to people after the race, and Laura Ryan had a great run. She PB'd today. She was with us in Barcelona as well. Had a great time. Jamie had a great time. Got a picture with his tattoo. And Jamie.
We haven't talked about this tattoo in the podcast, by the way.
We'll keep that story for another day.
Right. Shout out Jamie.
I'm gonna keep that for another day. But yeah, it was really, really good. So very enjoyable. Big well done. And it seemed like the rain held off. And when rain holds off and it's lukewarm and overcast,
Perfect
it's
conditions.
a great day out for everyone. Everyone's going to have a really, really good day, and it seemed to be that way. Now, some people were struggling, and that's okay. That's a half marathon. So, but really, really well done to everyone involved. It was a really nice atmosphere. From my perspective, those on the course may say something different. I believe it wasn't so tight in one or two places, but not like it was last year. I believe one or two small changes in around Raheny, but for the most part, mostly the same course. But yeah, really, really nice day out for everyone. Gary Reinhardt, I think he was on the 150 balloon. And his fellow Pacers got to see them coming in. He didn't hear me. He was too busy signing autographs.
I'm sure you heard him, though.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So, but yeah, no, really, really, really good day out for everyone. And I enjoyed myself, and that's most important.
Would you do it next year now? Haven't seen all that there this year and all the rest to go down that finish line?
No, I actually think the timing of it, and I don't want to pick one or the other. I actually think the Limerick one is good timing. The Dublin one is good timing, depending on what your goals are. Even the draw to 10K is good timing. When Belfast is good. You have options, is what I would say. Which option you could choose, you could change up, but definitely, yeah, it looks like a nice race to be a part of. But I wouldn't say that to rule out any of the other races, if that makes sense, because it's a really, really big weekend of running. And what I would say is, what are your goals? If your goals were a half marathon, then it's a really, really good one to aim for, because it's the start of May. You have a good lead into it. You can, if you didn't have a good winter, you've still time there to build yourself up. It's a good benchmark for the summer and everything else. Or differently, you wanted the marathon and you've gone Belfast. You're down to Limerick for their run as well. So, but yeah, as an option, I think it is good. The ballot is probably the bit that, it's hard to plan around something you may or may not get. But yeah, definitely one to consider. Anyway, 100%.
There was lots of different reasons for people to run over the weekend. Limerick, shout out to Katie from our Barcelona group, got an 8-minute PB down in Limerick. But also Mary O'Donnell, who we had on the podcast before. If you listen back to one of our, I think it was the previous Dublin gone, she glided past me in jeans. Yeah. Well, she won open now. She did it in a suit. And seemingly she got a Guinness World Record being the fastest woman to do a marathon in a suit. I'm like, that's a pure Eric Lawless looking up things to do and all the rest. That's absolutely bananas.
That is brilliant.
Completely other end of the spectrum. I don't know about you, but my head is so far up lately. I seem this is all over the news and stuff over the last week, and I don't listen to the radio anymore. So and these lads were on the Late Late Show. But did you hear about London? The guys running with the fridge. A guy ran with a fridge in his back for London. You're probably the same boat as me. I don't know if we're the only two, but maybe we're not, and someone else heard about it. But there's a guy, shout out to Amy who showed me on this one, at FTD Brothers. They've over 500,000 followers, so most people probably don't listen to this. But they're running to help cure dementia before it takes their... But they're running a marathon a day for 32 days, and they ran Belfast today. I think it was their day 7 or 8. They're on the Late on Friday, and the Late's on because it's the Late. It's on well past my bedhouse. A fridge on their back, or was a 25 kilo fridge or something. I wish I should have known more before I looked in the intro. I'm totally honest with you, but they did that, and I
don't know why, but I'm just imagining this American fridge freezer.
I don't think it's like that now. Yeah, it was some sort of fridge in the back.
I did deliveries younger, and there was an American fridge freezer on my back, but not like this. I was like, how could you do a marathon like that?
Yeah, I'm looking on it now. They're training there. There's an actual fridge on his back. Running it's just bananas. But they're trying to get the word out there. It seemed me they weren't on the stage for Late. They're in the crowd or stuff. They only 5 minutes to talk about it. Unbelievable what they're doing. And definitely something looking more. Yeah. I think different running clubs are running them. The main reason I'm saying this, as little as I know about it, is what I've been told, that like they're running, like I said, a marathon. I think it's a marathon every day for 30 days, and other run clubs and stuff are getting involved. So have a look at their Instagram. I'm sure those run clubs are already getting involved in that, and to help the guys out in that one. It's I'm speechless.
Can I put beer in the fridge, make it harder on them?
I
Just when they
don't know
think
if they're
it's
doing
easy.
each day I think it was just London the fridge. I don't know if it was just London for the fridge.
Okay.
But
I
then
was
the
like, if
32
that gets
days.
easy, if that gets easy, I've got a crate of beer. I can
It's the
go and
Conor
give them a
O'Keefe
hand.
thing. 32 beers in day one. Take a beer off to celebrate on each day. I don't think
Yeah,
it's
I'll give
like
them a
that to
hand.
make it easier. But
100%,
hell of a cause to doing it. Hell of a
yeah,
cause.
no, it is. It is. It's always good to, and as we always say, you're either running from something, for something. You know, it's everyone has their reason why, and it's fantastic when it can try and make a change. So, yeah, big well done to them, and yeah, you know, keep an eye out for that.
I have no stories from the Drogheda 10K, so we'll have to move on.
I'll give one shout out. I'll give one shout out.
Oh, okay.
Sinead listens to the podcast. She has our AGR t-shirt anytime she's taken on a gym event or a run event, and she took on another 10K.
Brilliant.
And I believe Drogheda is quite a hilly course as well. So it's quite a challenging 10K. But what I want to say is a well done, because when you go back a couple of years, she would have said, I never do a 10K, hate running, still hates running. But I'm like, you did a 10K, you know, so, and that's her second or third now, I believe. And it's great to see people getting involved and pushing themselves. And it's not all about the 64 minutes. It is because they win, you know, and they're athletes and they're phenomenal and they're great people, but it's also about the people who are going for that extra mile for themselves and really pushing themselves, and no different in every race we've mentioned today, and every race that'll happen next week. There are people stepping out for the first time, getting into it for the first time, and letting go of that fear of, oh, I might not make it, or, you know, everyone's going to laugh at me. You know, there's a lot there. So big well done to Sinead for sticking at it. And you never know, there could be a half marathon in there for her one of these days as well. So, but yeah, well done to everyone on that scale who was taking on something hard today for the first time.
Absolutely. And I even going back to that, less than 10% as the post went out during the week that do a half marathon in under 1 hour and 30 minutes. One of them being Connor from the Fantastic Four, got in 1:27. So shout out to him as well on that
Very
one.
good. Yeah,
But
yeah.
we could do shout outs and stuff all day. But I think we'll get on with this week's episode of the podcast. And this one, like you just talked about running 4, running 2, something. This one's doing Ironman's from or to something as well. So a hell of an interesting one we got coming up for this week's episode of the podcast.
Yeah, great episode, another great guest and another great listen. So let's crack into it.
Let's go. Our next guest on the Any Given Runday podcast is an endurance athlete, an aerospace engineer and PhD researcher, a public speaker with a TEDx talk to her name, and this summer she's taken on Operation Ironwoman, which is all 5 Ironmans in the UK this year. Why? Well, only one way to find out. Emily Bond, welcome to this week's episode of the Any Given Runday podcast. How are you getting on?
Yeah, getting on all right.
Emily, what in the world would possess you to become an aeronautical engineer? Never mind the Ironman. What brought you into the engineering route?
I don't know, just curiosity, I guess. Like I was always one of those annoying children. It was like, yeah, but why? Yeah, but why? My mum would just be like, I don't know. So yeah, I guess like curiosity is a massive driver, and then I don't know, just fascinated by planes, I guess.
I say and I ask because that was my childhood, was why and planes, and that was pretty much still what my life is now, just a bigger child. But when you look into going through engineering, quite demanding, spend a lot of time in research, a lot of time in talking, where did the running and the triathlon start to come a factor in your life? When did you get into sport?
Well, triathlon was only last year. So I only did my first triathlon in September, which was Weymouth, Ironman 70.3. And then I did a sprint triathlon the week after. And then that was it.
The sprint just for recovery, Emily, was it?
Yeah. Yeah, I was back home for my birthday, and there was one in like 15 minutes away from me, and I was like, do you know what, I may as well just do it, see like what the crack is. And yeah, it was pretty good. But yeah, like before that, I'd always done like various bits of sport when I was younger, but nothing major, just like PE rotations and that. And yeah, as a family, we were active, but never like competitive. And then when I moved to uni, just sort of picked up bits and pieces, but I actually couldn't run for about 2.5 years after I had surgery in 2018 on both my legs for compartment syndrome. So
Okay.
I needed my first 5K run last April, and I just sort of had a bit of a notion before that to kind of be like, I'll want to try again, because I was a bit sick of myself not running and kind of being stuck in the mindset of like, could I still run? So I just signed myself up for a 5K, and I was like, well, we'll get to April and we'll deal with it then. So I got to April and then did my 5K and then just went from there, really.
Emily, we're going to have to backtrack a little bit
Yeah.
there, because I'm getting a bit of deja vu asking the same question, because I met you up in the Northern Ireland Running Show, and the AGR running crew all up there, and we all had the same thing. Both leg surgery. What's this syndrome? What happened there?
So I was training actually for my one of my original career choices, which was to go into the Navy. Because like for me, I just wanted to get away from home as soon as possible, and go and do engineering, travel the world, all that kind of stuff. So you had to meet like a certain run time. So it was 2.5K. Yeah, 1.5 miles, 2.4K in like 13 minutes 10. For where I was at the time. So coming from like no running background to trying to do that was obviously a bit intense in itself. So I was training for that, and yeah, it just got to a point where it was clearly just too much. So, it went beyond shin splints and stuff to something a bit more serious. And it got to a point where like I couldn't go up like a flight of stairs or even an incline without it kind of coming on. And yeah, they do this thing called like a pressure test. So they basically send you for a run to try and like trigger the symptoms, and then they put a needle in your legs to test the pressure of the muscle compartment, and that's how they like diagnose it. So I did that, and the like pressure in my legs came back to between 2 and 3 times what it should have been after like a 15-minute run. So they were like, okay, yeah, this is a bit of a problem. With time not really being on my side, because I was doing my A-levels and I just wanted to leave home, I essentially had like 4 surgeries in one go.
Wow.
Which is obviously pretty intense. So yeah, they go in and then they just cut like the linings of like your muscles on my calves. So I've got like 4 kind of big scars on my legs. Yeah, that like set me back quite a while. I was on crutches for like, it was like a couple of months, I think.
Emily, was this all exercise induced, or was there an
Yeah.
underlying condition before this? Or this just like you had a goal and you pretty much ran until the wheels literally were falling off?
Yeah, so I had a PT at the time, and yeah, just wasn't really listened to as well, which is why like now I'm such a big advocate for like listening to like your body, and like, it's why they say like you should really build up progressively rather than just fucking going for it.
You're talking to 2 of the wrong people there for that one. We are the exact same.
We haven't gone for it in ages there. You have lately, actually, in fairness, yeah. So this PT was pretty much prescribing 7 days of running, and you got to do this in every run hard, or
It was
just
more
get an idea for someone listening, like of
yeah,
how.
there just wasn't that like listening. I was sort of saying to him like, look, something's not right. Like I kind of knew within myself it was beyond just a bit of like kind of lactic buildup like that. And he would just keep pushing me. Like there wasn't that kind of communication and actual feedback of it. So he was very set on like, okay, this is the goal you have. I will get you here. But there wasn't the kind of feedback loop to it, I suppose, was the main issue. That people are different. Obviously at the time I was like 17, so I was still growing a little bit and adjusting. And there maybe just wasn't that as informed approach to it of maybe ease back a bit and like renegotiate what we're doing.
Yeah, build up over time rather than
Yeah.
now, which led to you. So you had the first surgery. What And then did you say 4 surgeries?
So it would have been done in 4 separate ones, but I just had
Okay.
it all in one go.
So what did that mean for you, Emily, when it comes to looking at recovery? Because like that, you've the internal pressures of, I want to get away from home. You have the goal of, I want to join the Navy, I want to be an engineer, I want to see the world. And that's something a lot of people, for me, I always knew what I wanted to do. So I actually don't have not empathy. I do empathize with people, but I don't have the same bond with people who got into their 20s and didn't know what they wanted to do. I've always known. What did that mean for you then? Because obviously you just got into the sport, you're doing your A levels, and plans are now very much changing. What did that mean to you?
Just meant a readjustment, really, and just finding some other way to just move forward. So originally I didn't want to go to uni, but I ended up writing my UCAS application in 2 weeks with my boss at the time when I worked in a B&B helping me write my personal statement, because no one in my immediate family had gone to uni. So I didn't understand the difference between a bachelor's course or a master's course, or that different unis even had different curriculums. That's how much I just didn't know about uni. So I typed into UCAS engineering and then just picked the top 5. I just scrolled through and picked them, literally no rhyme or reason behind any of them. And when all the offers came back, so Plymouth and Exeter, I was like, right, that's too close to home, because I'm originally from South Devon. And then Liverpool I didn't get the grades for, and then Queen's in Belfast gave me a reduced offer to go on their bachelor's programme. So I was like, right, that'll do. Off to Belfast I go, 300 miles away. And I had no friends here, no family here, nothing. And I just got on a plane September 2019 and just flew here, and then that was it.
Emily, how did you? I actually did something similar, but the parallel stopped pretty soon because I didn't know what I was doing, and then all of a sudden I went into. I was in a PT thing. I was in a hotel gym. And I really hated it, and I was like, one of these days I'm going to quit, and that's it. And I quit, and I was like, I'm going back to college. Didn't know what I was going to do, and like yourself, it was around July, August. So there was so basically the main phase of subjects and all had gone. So it was whoever left. And the top 5 were different engineers that just happened to be minute. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do electronic engineering minute. I thought I was half decent at fixing things. I could do a couple of things with IKEA. That's what engineering's going to be. I hadn't got a clue of what it was. I ended up meeting that other lad, Eric, who's just disappeared us right now because he mustn't know the story was coming up. I'm sure he'll pop in a second for that. I don't know if you've ever heard that story before. But anyway, but when I got into engineering, I realized after a year, oh God, this is not for me. But you obviously figured out pretty fast this was for you, and you found it easy enough to get through.
Yeah, I just kind of stuck at it, really. Like I said, I think the curiosity aspect helped, and in some senses leadership in a way, because there's a lot of group projects and whatnot. And I think for me, I am someone who does more than just one thing. So instead of just doing my uni degree, I did so much more around it, which added so much more to my life. So I worked in industry, and I would just take different opportunities, do different sport, and it kind of just built this picture where one opportunity then just kept leading to another, which is kind of how I got to where I'm at now. We're still doing my PhD and then getting into triathlon and that.
This whole engineering and all the rest, and on one stage you're getting into Ironmans and high performance and all the rest. Somehow it's just like rocket science. And I have listened to the TED Talk twice. Emily, for Eric who's getting confused right now, how is this all like rocket science?
Well, it's just about, another part as well with PhD is it's all endurance. Life is an endurance event. You can't sprint through life, really. But in terms of what I talked about in my TEDx talk, so it was what rocket science taught me about personal growth. So essentially it's all an iterative process. And in engineering, you expect to fail, because if you don't fail, then you never really get a successful rocket launch. But the important part is failing, but learning from the failure. And essentially how so many people who don't grow and don't change refuse to learn from failures. And it's the same for triathlon as well. if you're not prepared to try and probably fail at quite a few different things, you'll probably not really get as successful or even complete an event.
I did the first half. I failed engineering pretty good, but the part that stopped there for me.
Emily, can I touch on, because obviously when we meet like-minded people, when we take on triathlon, and as you've probably figured out, we're not similar people, but we have similar interests, and then we have a similar mindset, and it's always encouraging and always keep going, keep pushing, keep going. We've all kind of developed that kind of a mindset. But as you were taking on your first 5K with a little bit of fear of coming back from the compartment syndrome, I want to just talk on that bit, because obviously you've developed a hell of a lot now, but let's go back to that first 5K. What were your fears? Because a lot of people listening to this, and this is why I'm asking the question, have that fear of couch to 5K or getting out, or being embarrassed when they go for a run, or the fact that running, everyone hates running when they start running because it's difficult and they're possibly doing it wrong. But go back to that first 5K for you. How was that in terms of a mental challenge and physical challenge for you?
I think in a sense it was just putting myself there was the start. I didn't really help myself, to be honest. In the morning, I flew back from Edinburgh about 7:00 in the morning. Lord knows why. I was visiting a friend and I was like, oh, sign up for this and then fly back from Edinburgh, because why not? So yeah, I just sort of showed up, and I remember just seeing all these people there, and obviously you have all the different clubs with all their club shirts and stuff. And I was just like, I was kind of like, what am I actually doing, being here? And I had no concept of even how far 5K was. Like, I couldn't even visualize to try and pace it. I was like, whatever happens. I just wanted to do it. Obviously I had in my mind, there's probably going to be some points where I'm going to walk it and maybe go too fast or whatever. But it was just about doing the distance for me, because it was something that I, at one point I didn't even know I could do. After I had my surgery, like, I could barely stand up on my own, like, let alone even think about running. And yeah, I just remember kind of setting off, and one of my other like biggest struggles, and it does still come up now, is like breathing too. And like that comes mentally as well, is just trying to go through that and calm that whole like process and like system, and being like, I'm not dying, like I am voluntarily doing this activity right now. And just knowing that it's okay to like walk a bit, and then start again. But it's just going through that process, and also knowing like the why of why you're doing it, because if you're doing it for someone else, then it's harder to get through those points. Whereas if you like have your why for doing it, whether it's to, get some fresh air, or it is to run with friends, have a bit more community, or it's to see what your mind and body can do or come back from an injury or whatever, it's so much easier to like navigate those challenges when they arise.
Right, Eric, let me ask you this one thing. What is your number one recovery tip before a long run?
Besides not stretching, I always cheat and reach for Ultra Pure Wintergreen Heat Rub Cream.
Oh yeah, that's actually really good. It's perfect for tight muscles before you hit the road. All you have to do is just massage into your calves, your hamstrings, even your shoulders, and you'll feel that heat kick in straight away.
By the way your body is, Sean, you're definitely buying this stuff in litres. But it delivers fast-acting, non-greasy, targeted warmth right where you need it most. And it's not just about the heat, Sean. It combines wintergreen, rosemary oil, juniper berry, and caffeine powder.
So when you're feeling tight, aching, or just ready for your next run, Ultra Pure Wintergreen Heat Rub Cream is a must-have addition to your warm-up routine.
Trust us, your legs will thank you, and it's easy to carry in your sports bag.
Elevate your everyday with Ultra Pure.
Shop online now at ultrapurelabs.ie or find it in your local pharmacy or health store. By listening to this advert, you are supporting Irish businesses and this podcast. Let's get back to the episode.
Did this, you talk about in your Instagram that self-belief is a skill, and you're talking now that you have this belief in yourself, and obviously you have belief in yourself because this Operation Ironwoman that we're going to talk about in a little bit. Was there a race or something, or a moment, or you've talked before about kitchen floor moment where something just clicked during this process? Are you like, actually, this belief is coming now, I have this in me to go? Because it's going from the surgery and unable to run. I find it hard that you just had that belief straight away. I know you had that the guidance there to aim for, but was that just literally always there as soon as you finished the surgery, or was there a moment or a race where you're like, you know what, actually, there is something to keep pushing this. I could do what you're going to take on with Operation Iron Woman.
I think, yeah, I mean, I didn't even consider really doing a 5K race until, well, I signed up, I think it was November 2024. So that would have been, 6 years after my surgery? Yeah, because I had my
Okay.
surgery Christmas 2018. And then, yeah, it wasn't until 2024 that I really thought about going and doing some sort of running race. I'd done like a little bit of hockey a couple of seasons before that, but that was sort of it. Obviously, that's just a bit shorter sprints and things like that, but nothing significant. And I don't know, I think it was just, but self-belief is one of those things that comes in all different aspects. You know, you can see it in career, but you can see it in even going and traveling. Like some people will say that, oh, I could never, travel to Europe, for example, but they'll believe themselves if they're going for a new job or, learning a new skill. So I think it's like you can build self-belief up across, but it's having that ability to transfer it and know it's cumulative too. Because like you said, like I didn't come straight out of my surgery and be like, right, 5K and then triathlons for me. Like that didn't even cross my mind at that point. Like it started off with believing that I was just going to get back on my own 2 feet. I was going to get off the crutches. I was going to go swimming again, once I was kind of cleared with the dressings. And then, I was going to like walk on my own again. Cause like when I went back to sixth form after my surgery, I was plonked on a table at the top of the sixth form building, and all my work was brought to me for a good few weeks because our like campus was so long that I just couldn't like walk to the other end of it. So that belief journey started, if we're talking about like the surgery sense of being like, right, I know within myself I can get to a point where I can walk to the other end of school again and I don't have to have someone bring me my work, and then it was driving again, and it was just all those small milestones over the years, and then allowing myself and my mind to kind of keep being ambitious and keep dreaming like incrementally. And then, yeah, next thing I know, I was doing a 5K and now I'm doing all the UK Ironman races, which is absurd.
Yes. So Emily, and part of that absurdity is you finish a 5K race. At what point did you go, you know what, this wasn't enough? At what point did this, I suppose, scientist in turn endurance turn belief decide this 5K business isn't enough for me? It's triathlons now. What brought you down the triathlon route?
I think it was kind of that question. There is a part of it that was that feeling of not enoughness, but there was also the other side of it, which was the curiosity element of like, what if I can do more? Like what if there's kind of like more out there, like ambition, like dreaming kind of sense. So yeah, I did that 5K. Then I did another 5K afterwards, which I managed to get my friend to sign up for. So that was her first 5K as well. And then there was someone I know who she had signed up for the Belfast Women's 10K, which was in June last year, and she couldn't make it. So I took her place. And I was like, right, I'm just going to try this and see what happens. And I was like, do you know what? I'm going to try for sub 1 hour because why not? And they had paces at the time. So I sat behind the like 55-minute paces and just in front of like the 1 hour ones. And then in the last K, just like crept forward and then ended up with like a 58.50 for my first 10K, which was insane. And like every race I did last year, I think I cried at nearly the end of every single one with just absolute proudness of myself, of like how far I'd come. And I'm going back to the first 5K I did. I remember I phoned my mum at the end and I was like absolutely sobbing. And she goes, "What's happened? What's happened?" I was like, "No, it's good. It's good. It's fine." And I told her this doing my first 5K. And then she starts sobbing as well on the phone because, like, you know, we'd been through that Christmas together where like I was just in so much pain all the time to then running again. And it was just, you know, insane. And I think that is what kind of gave me so much of a buzz last summer, was just being so grateful for what my body could like now do again, you know. So yeah, I went from like 5K to 10K and then had a couple of weeks where there was obviously a bit of shin splints and stuff as you're coming back, which I know a lot of people will get
Did
at
that
some
scare you
point.
a little bit from
A
being where
little
you were
bit,
with surgeries?
but I think within myself, I knew the difference as well. And I knew
Okay,
that
because
like,
you learn what pain
yeah,
and what it was and when to pull back.
exactly. Yeah. And
And what
then,
did your PT say? You're still with, obviously. What did he say?
well, I've got a different
Sean
now,
throwing cheap
obviously.
shots, huh?
Yeah, let that one go. Um,
Sorry.
But was it a case of, okay, look, I know what to do here. I'm going to rest. I'm going to recover and ease into it.
yeah, that was it. And it was knowing and not being afraid anymore to slow down. You know, like I did Hillsborough 10K and I did it with two of my friends, and it was probably one of the best races I've had because of the community aspect of it, even though I was in quite a bit of discomfort the whole way round. But we just went slower and we just chatted the whole way round, you know, and carried each other through it. So yeah, I did that. And then went to my first half was in August, actually. So it was the Antrim Coast Half Marathon. So
Oh,
there
nice.
was 19 weeks between my first 5K and my first half marathon.
That's
Um,
supposed to be a very popular one. What's that half marathon like? I've heard a few people talk about that. It's by
it
the
was,
coast, and
yeah, it was decent enough. Like last year was really sneakily hot. Like it was that type of weather where unless you were aware, it could really catch you off guard. And there was a lot of like elite and clearly very well trained people who were just like, not today, like not happening.
oh wow,
I think I worked out there was about a third of like the signed up amount of people who signed up who didn't complete.
a
So
third of people that signed up didn't complete.
I think so, yeah, roughly what I calculated. Like it was very sneakily hot, but it's a decent course. It's known for being very, very flat.
Yeah, I've heard it's very a flat course.
Mm,
It's been a PB course, and I know
yeah,
there's people around here that go up there for their half marathon PB. The end of August is around that time. Am I right in saying
yeah,
that?
it's
No.
like the 24th of August or so.
Well, how did you
But
get on?
Emily, that wasn't going to stop you. You didn't let the heat get at you. You're a rocket scientist.
No, I paced myself. It's quite interesting. I didn't even have a proper sports watch at the time. I had an old Casio watch with just a
Ah,
stopwatch on,
yes.
and I
Nice.
wrote my pacing strategy on the back of my hand and just looked at the stopwatch every now and then just to have a rough guide. So, yeah.
And that worked.
Yeah, well, I ended
If it
up, I
works
think
for
I
you, fair
got
enough.
2 hours 13 or so,
Brilliant.
which is pretty solid.
And then obviously you were progressing on this. At what point did half Ironman begin to come into your mind?
Hydration is key to fueling endurance performance.
Perform Nutrition's Electrolytes Plus sachets have been specifically designed to fill the need for advanced hydration for athletes.
With 1,000 milligrams sodium, all essential electrolytes, and 2,500 milligram performance blend made up of glutamine, taurine, and coconut water powder, one sachet will replenish and revitalize your hydration.
Using natural flavors, natural colors, no added sugar, and no added fillers, each sachet has a sweet and lightly salted fruity flavor and comes in either mixed berry or citrus.
Informed, sport tested, and trusted by Olympians such as Kate O'Connor, world champion boxer Aoife O'Rourke, and pro triathlete Nikki Bartlett, and many more elite athletes.
Trust Perform to fuel your excellence, and by listening to this advert, you are supporting Irish businesses and this podcast. Now let's get back to the episode.
And It would have been midsummer, so I was out cycling with, we'll say, an acquaintance, and he had signed up for a full Ironman, and I was chatting to him, and I was like, do you know what? I reckon I could do something like that. That sounds like a good idea. And then he was like, oh, you need to train for like years for like these triathlons and stuff, and like the Ironman ones. And I was like,
Don't mind
nah.
them, Emily. 16 weeks.
Yeah, and I was like,
Proven science. I've done a
yeah.
PhD on it there about 2 years ago.
He was the guinea pig.
Yeah, and I was like, do you know what? I've got a pretty solid background, especially in like swimming and stuff, and like just grit and determination. So as soon as I got home, I searched Ironman races, and I was like, right, we'll start with a 70.3. That's a solid place to start. So I looked, and I was like, right, what ones are left in the UK this year? And then Weymouth popped up, and I was like, right, they've got a flat run course, it's a sea swim, rolling bike. I can do that. So next thing, I just signed up for it, and I text my friend, and I was like, guess what? And she's like, what? This could be anything. And I was like, I just signed up for my first triathlon in Weymouth. And she was like, oh my God, no way. And I was like, yeah. So that's how it started. So I had like 4 months of like intentional training for Weymouth. And then that was it really. And then I just kind of, used different opportunities to build up. Like I worked out, I think it was like 10 swims between when I signed up on Weymouth, and then a few cycle rides and a few runs, and just kind of went for it.
When you got to that start line with the ambition, the confidence, the want to be better, grit, determination, everything you've just described, probably not as prepared, and I've been there, probably not as prepared as many. Did you get to the start line and see, because the start line of an Ironman is probably the most athletic start line I've ever been felt out of place at, let's say. It's full of phenomenal athletes and phenomenal, like I even remember, and Sean was with me, seeing some of the bikes these guys were pushing up to the start line, and you're like, I think I am in the wrong place. You do get that kind of, I suppose it is like a fan, or suppose you become starstruck by the athleticism of these people. How was it when you got to the start line of that race for you? Did you feel out of place? Did you feel like this is overwhelming? Maybe did you get those pre-race nerves of maybe I haven't done enough for this, or was it a case of this is okay, I'm just going to take my time?
I think I was just so excited to be there, to be honest, and I think so much hard work had gone into even the week before. And I'd had some challenges with who was going to come up and support me. And it just kind of reminded me that even though I was really upset in the kind of couple of days before, and it was a lot more stressful than it needed to be, it made me realize actually how much I was doing it for myself and not to try and seek validation from anyone else, which was really nice. And I think that's then what made it so much of a better experience, because it's like, do you know what? It doesn't matter what happens. I'm just doing this for the experience and to just, again, see what I can do, when I've come from a place of, not being able to kind of walk for a few days and things like that, and really struggling, to just being amongst all kinds of people, people going at different paces, people who have, going for elite age group qualifying, all kinds of stuff. And I think it can be easy to get intimidated by all that, but it's also remembering that even those people will have gone through the same sorts of challenges of questioning whether they've done enough to qualify, or whether they've done enough, to even meet the cut-off times. There is kind of like that shared approach to it. And I think that's what I love so much about triathlon is I think people already appreciate how hard triathlon can be, especially once you get into endurance, that actually people are just there to help you through. Like I went down on my own. So again, I didn't know like anyone there. I didn't even know if anyone was going to come and support me. And because like my best friend had to go to a wedding, so she was like there virtually, but not in person. And I was like, do you know what? I just need to go down and just enjoy it and embrace it and just learn what it's all about, really. So I went down and I ended up going to the park run on the Saturday morning, and I ended up meeting up with chatting with these two guys. And one of them was doing it and the other guy, he was just supporting him. And we just ended up spending like the whole weekend together. Like we went for like lunch and stuff because like we just ended up clicking. And again, it was that like support and stuff. And even when it started the next day, so the swim was cancelled for Weymouth. So they almost started with the bike kind of time trial method, if you like, I think it was. And even then, when he passed me on the bike course, you know, he gave me just a shout and he was like, I'll see you at the end, you know, and like have a good race. And just even that like little bit of community throughout. And there was just so many like little aspects like that. And yeah, I think that's really what made Weymouth so great, was just taking it all in, you know, and the night before the race as well. Like I find like water really like calming, which is why I quite like enjoy swimming and stuff like that. And I put my wetsuit on and I had planned to do a bit of a practice swim. I didn't. I just ended up floating for like half an hour just in the sea. And I remember it was like dark, but it was so warm and crisp as well. And just kind of being really grateful for being there, that I was like, you know, whatever happens tomorrow, like there's another day, like it'll be fine. I will have learned something, you know, and I just loved it. And I remember coming round and like you had to do obviously a couple of laps and then you split off to the finish for Weymouth. And I remember seeing that finish line and just, again, I got to the end and I just absolutely sobbed my heart out. Like I was just so like proud of just going through that whole like journey, even just to get there, and like believing in myself that I could get to that point. And it turns out my other best friend, she was there and I was coming through, and you have like the street bags and stuff, and I was looking for mine and one of the volunteers was like, oh, you know, someone was asking for you. And I turned towards the exit and we just caught eyes and we both just started sobbing again. And just, it was so much just raw emotion. And like, yeah, it's just, I don't think it's a moment I will ever forget, you know, of like how much it meant. And then obviously the cogs started turning of like, okay, well, what's next, you know, after this? And yeah, here we are
You
in
almost cry as
2026.
much as Sean at the end of races, Emily. Almost. I think you're a close second.
Yeah.
Emily,
Well, I don't connect eyes with you at the end of the race there because you're not there for me at that stage. Otherwise, I'd be a lot worse.
because I'm usually still doing the event while you're finished. Emily, that moment, that finish line, that feeling of success, you didn't just go, okay, let's move on, let's do the next step up. You've really set a big challenge for yourself. At what point, when the tears stopped, did you say, right, we need something even bigger? Because a lot of people are quite happy, and a natural progression is maybe do another one. Let's get a bit faster. Let's hone in on some of the skills and then move on. I was exception to the rule. I did a full because it was two halves for the price of one. You know, that's the way I was looking at it. What brought you then to set this behemoth of a challenge for yourself? Because this is a big step up for one, the physicality element, the ability to recover, the TED talk we've talked about now about endurance and life as an endurance and triathlon and the dedication of three sports, and all the while undertaking a PhD. You know, what's brought this one on, and what is the why behind this?
Well, it sort of started, I think, kind of slightly pre, but also on Weymouth weekend. And I remember walking around on the Saturday around like the merch tent and stuff, and I got chatting to a couple of people there. And we were sort of just talking generally about the events, because obviously like one of the people I was chatting to is from kind of like Swansea area. So obviously they were talking about that one. And I was just kind of like, oh, okay, because I was still new to it. Also, I was like, I don't even know how many events there are. And I suppose I just had this kind of loose trail thought that fluttered by me, and then did Weymouth the day after. And then I remember I messaged my triathlon coach at the time. He just helped me with some swim analysis just to get a little bit more efficient. And I'd already kind of pitched to him that I wanted more coaching afterwards. He was like, right, see how Weymouth goes first, do Weymouth, and then we can talk and we'll debrief when you come back. And I like messaged him and I was like, I have an idea. And he goes, oh, okay. And so I came back and he goes, right, so what's the idea? And I was like, right, I want to do every UK Ironman race this year. And he goes, oh God, when do we start? And I was like, that's the right answer. And then, yeah, pretty much as soon as like the races started being released, I just signed up for them as they came along. So I was like, well, if I sign up, I can't backtrack really. And then, yeah, that was it. I got my coach on board and just started talking to people about it. And it just kind of went from there, really. And I suppose the idea just started with just a general what if I did every one. And it was just, again, that curiosity element of just, like, it didn't even cross my mind that I'll be the first female to have done them all. Like, that was an after fact that I found out once we spoke with Ironman UK. It was just that curiosity of just like, well, if I can have the 2025 I had, and I love triathlon, like, what if I just went all in and just gave it my best shot to do them all?
So when we say all 5 in 1 year, that sounds really daunting. But it's really a lot more daunting than that, because all these 5 come in with just a couple of months of each other. We've got Bolton 70.3, into Swansea 70.3, the full one in Leeds, the full one in Wales, and then a nice full circle moment for you, the Weymouth 70.3 to finish it all in.
Yeah.
Talking to people in the triathlon world and your coaching and all since you've committed to this, what are the big takeaways you've had so far for this challenge coming up?
Takeaways in what sense?
Just
Well, what's the plan?
advice, or what's the
the plan, Emily? How are you tackling this?
The main plan is planning on the plan not going according to plan, which it currently
Let me write that again.
You didn't
The
finish
plan was
engineering.
not the
Slow
plan.
down there.
Yeah,
Slow
I
down
didn't
there.
pass engineering. Go again. Electronical. I said I failed electronical engineering.
It's the processing speed that got him.
Emily, if that's your title of your next TedX talk, we're in trouble here. Go again on that. The plan,
Yeah,
around the
great
plan,
title.
above and
That's
under
like
the plan,
the
beyond.
shipping ships. Do you remember that one, Sean?
I do remember that, the shipping ships. And now Sally's selling seashells for the seashore.
Like, it's a new one.
Go again, Emily.
Right.
So you have the plan to plan that the plan is not going to go to plan.
Yes.
But in fact, this goes back to the whole. That was good, but this is the whole back to it's rocket science, Eric. This is the rocket science, the failing thing. No, I'm right. Yeah. This is where you're going with this. Full circle.
Yeah.
So what's the plan that's going to fail?
Well, obviously the plan is to do like cumulative build up. So I'm just done my 16th week there. So we're on week 17 now of when I like officially started. Because after Weymouth I went on holiday for a bit, as you do, and then came back and started. So it's just kind of building off that, really. But I have already worked out that in the 2 months of this year, I've done 10 times more distance in swimming than I did in 4 months before Weymouth.
Okay, so preparation has gone well, and you're seeing a huge ramp up. And I just want to come back to it as well, and my lack of knowledge on the compartment syndrome. This volume and this risks to where you're going. Are there any risks to you of that coming back, or do you have any fears of that, or is everything maintained now and the body is adapted? And because recovery is going to be a big issue.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's always risks, and it is kind of in the back of my mind a bit, but I think I know I'm doing it with so much more information that all the China training is done around that, so that it doesn't happen again. Like at the moment, I'm not running as much. It's almost ended up being, instead of training the 3 disciplines all at once, since Christmas, it's kind of become phased. So I had a bit of like knee problem from like mid-January. So I was just swimming for like a good few weeks there. And then in the past like 2 weeks, I've got back on the bike again. And then I'll probably wait another couple of weeks till I bring the running back in. But obviously the bike will help so much with the running in terms of fitness and that. So yeah, that's what I mean, like the plan not going to plan. Obviously the original plan was to keep building them all up progressively, but it's just not happened that way. But the more I stress about it, the worse it just makes my performance anyway. So it's just working with what I've got, really.
And to look at yourself now versus the 5K last year, as you, Emily, the rocket, endurance has massively increased. You've obviously seen a 10x times in your fitness in comparison to last year. How does that feel for you now as this challenge is coming, to see yourself getting fitter, to see the difference in yourself, to see how far you've come? How good is it now? Because previously it was a lot of how privileged we are to be able to do this, and that's still very much a case, and a why you're doing it, and a push. But to see how far you have come and this fitness level, because it particularly endurance, and as we touched on at the start, triathlon and Ironman and a challenge like this is, and we've had fantastic athletes on, and we still can't get our heads around the level of endurance and fitness. How do you feel now, with still so much more to go, which could be the fittest year of your life? If you were to look at this, it's going to be huge.
I think it's so hard to tell. And like, I was talking to my friend about this earlier, actually, because I was like, I feel like there's always that question that crosses your mind. Like, we're about 12 weeks out from Bolton now, when it really like kicks off. And I suppose there is that question of like, have I done enough to this point? And am I going to have enough by 12 weeks time? But then it's looking again and how much I managed to achieve in actually such a short space of time last year. And it's almost reminding myself that in some ways I'm already winning by just even giving this a go and just putting myself almost on the court to try. And, I'm not looking to age group qualify. I'm not looking to be super speedy. That might come at another point. But for me, there's so much more and so much like growth that's already happened, but just how much I'll keep learning. And I think as long as I'm open to that and how much I'll keep learning and growing, I don't think I can go far wrong over the summer,
Emily, I've never done an Ironman. I could probably confidently say I never will. I can't swim. But when you finished Weymouth, what was I know you said you went on holidays and stuff, but the recovery process, what was that like until, I don't know if you did any sort of training at all, or how did you feel you could have done training? And on the back of that then, how long is it then from Bolton to the second one is Swansea, 7.3?
So after Weymouth, I remember like that evening, looked at my watch and it was on like 9%, and I think it said like 94 hours till fully recovered, and I was like, sweet Jesus, like whew, okay.
It sounds like a hangover for me now these days.
Yeah.
Cassio wouldn't have said that. Would have been a lot more complimentary of you.
I know. It would have just told me the time, and that would have been it.
That's all you need to know is the time. You're grand.
Yeah.
Go for a run in the morning. I'll time you.
So yeah, I remember so immediately after Weymouth, obviously I had a shower, tried to eat some food, but I didn't sleep properly for I think about 5 days after that.
The nervous system is shot. Yeah. It's such a bizarre feeling.
And it doesn't know between being chased by a lion and voluntarily throwing yourself around a course. So
that's some way of looking at it.
Yeah.
I might run faster if I said there was an actual lion, though. That's the only thing.
Maybe we'll try it one day.
I might just
Emily,
like giving up.
when, like, obviously, have you got a team to help you? Is it just you, your coach? Yeah, you said a couple of friends are coming to support you, and what way is it looking for you? Who's going to be crying at the finish line, and who's going to be supporting you around this journey? Is it just you, your coach, and a few others?
I don't know. I think in a way I'm trying not to focus too much on that, in a sense, knowing that like the people and the community will build itself around it. You know, like after Weymouth, like I said, my like best friend, she was at a wedding. But after I finished Weymouth, I looked at like obviously my messages and stuff, and I had like 47 messages from her because she was tracking me the whole way, just sending me messages and motivations and stuff. And to see them at the end, you know, it was almost like secondary inspiration and encouragement. And obviously their messages I can now even still look back on, you know, perhaps even pre-race, you know, this year. You know, there's a few people who have said they're going to try and come to the races they're perhaps closest to. So I have another friend who I used to work with, so she's going to try and come to Bolton. You know, a couple to Leeds, things like that. So there's almost like these like pockets of people and communities, and I think it's also known like just how easy it is to connect with people even there. So, you know, like doing Weymouth on my own last year and just how welcomed and much of a community I felt a part of, even though I knew no one there. I think holding on to that will help me through the summer as well, because then it's like the people that I'm close with, if they're there, you know, amazing. But it's also known that there's so much more around like the whole event and the whole day.
And we always say people are either running from something to something or for something. Is this very much still part of your own discovery, part of you, you know, getting your own headspace through sport? You know, is this is this is this helping your PhD? You coming up with some great ideas while you're on the bike for hours? Is part of your why, and even the mental side of it giving you so much more to talk about?
Yeah, I think it's interesting you say that, like running, what was it, from something to something or for something. I suppose like that appears, all three of those appear in like this whole kind of thing, really. Obviously, I'm running for myself, but also the four charities I'm doing some fundraising for. So Extern Crisis and Counselling, Childline, St John Ambulance, and Cycle Against Suicide, who were all core parts of like my journey and being here now. I think running to something, I think as people, if we stop choosing to grow and explore, we then start having big problems, you know, because the only constant in life is change. And when you try and avoid change, it can then become very stressful. You know, and I think growth is essentially inevitable. It's evolution if you come back to like the core of things. And I think running, I think I spent a lot of my life trying to run from things. You know, like growing up, things weren't always the easiest. Like home life was a bit turbulent, and just sort of some instances where it kind of made you appreciate how finite life can be. You know, and that's kind of one of the actually like core challenges that I try and face at the moment, is all to do with like taking, it sounds weird, but taking back ownership of like my breath and just the life behind that and how much you need that to like keep living, you know, and trying to transition from what am I running from to actually what am I running to, and embracing almost now as kind of like new lease of life in a way.
Yeah, and it's definitely part of, and that's why I say it, because after 6 years of this podcast, it's kind of the guaranteed question, because all of us have started on that journey of, and I think that's probably the bit we probably don't give enough credit to, is the change as we get as people who go into these endurance sports or who get involved in running clubs and find people even in, you know, when you think you're lonely in life and then you take part in a social run club, or you know, you do the couch to 5Ks, you do the park runs, you start to meet people in very similar situations and you pass time together, you run together. You don't notice the small change, and this is from me anecdotally, you don't notice small changes in your life and what it does for you to be able to handle different situations. And what I take on now is what I don't consider stressful situations pre-running and you know, standing at an Ironman going, how am I going to do this to, you know, how am I going to take on this minor task, or, you know, how am I going to do every Ironman in the UK? Everything else becomes relatively small in the grand scheme of things. And I think that's the part that fitness is always one thing, weight loss is always another. It's we've had guests on who talk about from eating disorders into now appreciating their bodies and taking everything in. I think that's probably the one thing we don't give enough credit to the sport and triathlon and all these great things is the development as a person, as you've so eloquently put, is the from, and at some point it's a to and for, and as you're doing for 4 great charities. I think that's the part that everyone loves about it, and eventually, but it's getting to that and finding that reason to start and finding this as an outlet that is the hard part, and the rest, as you said, you meet people, the journey takes care of itself, the support takes care of itself, and it becomes a real natural, beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes it's knowing that, like, I have like looked death in the face and come back from that. And it's just like, well, I've got all this opportunity. And it's just like, well, I may as well try, because essentially what's like the worst that can happen, you know? And sometimes it's looking back to appreciate how far you've come rather than linger on all the things you could have done differently, you know, and learn from that of like, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't have done that or shouldn't have put myself in this position. It's like, well, you can't change that, but you can change like the bit you do next.
Perspective was phenomenal, Emily. Emily, how can people keep up with your journey leading up to these 5 man events?
Yes. So mostly on Instagram. So just Operation Ironwoman. And then I've got my GoFundMe, which is also Operation Ironwoman. And then in terms of any like sponsors or other connections, can email me at emily@operationironwoman.com.
Emily, final question, and this could be completely edited out and a dud of a question, because just throughout, I think more so this episode than any other, there's been so many just perspective quotes and stuff you had, and another one on your Instagram was the magic you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding. Do you have a favourite quote of yours?
Oh,
I was hoping you were going to quote the podcast there for the last few weeks. You weren't listening to it there, Emily. I was hoping you were going to say Eric Lawless 2026 episode 310.
Some of the stuff you said a couple minutes ago could have been re-quoted back there as well. Now you kind of gave her a revision and a chance just to see if she took in some of what you said there, Eric. That's all.
Oh, God. One that normally comes back to me is feel the fear and do it anyway.
No, I didn't say that, Emily. You've got it wrong again. Can we edit this, John? Emily's after getting it wrong. I said something totally different. Okay. No, but look, you are.
Eric said, with great chicken and rice comes great possibility, is what Eric says, because that's how he prepares all his Ironmans and his marathons and stuff like that. It's the chicken and rice in the morning. That's what I've learned. And if I fail my next marathon, I'm going to have the chicken and rice the next one, guaranteed.
Emily, it has been absolutely fantastic. We wish you the very best. I've no doubt it's going to be tough. I've no doubt it's going to have ups, downs, but most of all, it's going to have lots of stories on the other side. So we do wish you the best. Sean will include all those things in the show notes, because he is the expert at editing and show notes of ways people can get in touch, follow along with your great adventure. Who knows, we may even see you for a triathlon over here in Ireland when you complete your challenge, and we can get out for a cycle, a swim and a race together at some point in the future. But the very best of luck from us all. Thanks so much for sharing your story. I'm sure there is so much more to that we haven't even uncovered, and it's great for you to give us your time, and we really, 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 really wish you all the best over the year ahead.
Yeah, thanks so much. And who knows, there might be a part 2.
Absolutely. I gotta brush up my engineer for part 2. With that being said, that is it for this week's episode of the Any Given Run Day podcast with myself, Emily, and Eric. Take care.